Welcome to Refugee Radio.
And welcome to the Refugee Radio Show, brought to you by the Refugee Radio charity. We are dedicated to providing a platform for refugee voices to be heard and for people with lived experience to be able to speak about the issues that affect them, because they are the real experts. In this program, we will be talking to Basma Kamel, who is originally from Egypt and now living here in the UK. Basma is a student and activist on women's rights and is a leading face in the campaign against harmful practices such as child marriage and FGM, or female genital mutilation. Basma is herself a survivor of FGM and has previously spoken to the BBC and the British press about her quest to put an end to the practice. We're going to have to talk about some disturbing topics today, but this is really important to raise awareness of what is happening and what we can all do about it together. Basma, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the program.
Oh, hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for the introduction and nice to meet you today.
Basma, first, can you start by telling us what is FGM?
So FGM, or female genital mutilation, is a harmful practice. It's being practiced in different countries in Africa and outside Africa as well. I come from Egypt, so Egypt has a prevalence of FGM. I would say it's over 95% of women have been undergone FGM. So it's one of the harmful practices where it has no benefit on women's health and just being done to, in my opinion, control women's sexuality and, preserve them before marriage from having intimate relationships. So that's one of the harmful practices, as also child marriage is being practiced, and it's one of the harmful practices as well.
So for you, growing up in Egypt, whereabouts did you grow up, and can you describe your home there? Can you paint us a picture with words, the sights and sounds and smells of your home and the neighborhood where you grew up?
Sure. I'm from Cairo. I lived all my life in Cairo before coming to the UK. So Cairo basically is the capital of Egypt, and it's beautiful and it has the pyramids and the Nile, and if people imagine, like, Cairo is, very, very nice and beautiful city. However, it also has many different neighborhoods, rich neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods. I'm from Dakrour, which is one of the poor neighborhoods, and it's about 20 minutes away from the pyramids. So I like my neighborhood because it's, having different people from working class, Cairo is a mixture of everyone coming to work there and to have education. So, it's a bit reminds me of like London in a way, like business and having the diversity of people. It's also the same in Egypt. Everyone from different cities come always to Cairo. So I'm the only daughter in my family, having two other siblings, male siblings, and of course my parents. And because I didn't have any sisters, so I had no idea when maybe we come to this point speaking about my experience with FGM. So I wouldn't say I had any idea what's going on, but yeah, this is my city and this is my culture where I'm coming from.
And so your mother was the only other woman in the house, as it were.
Yes.
And what was your sort of earliest memory of her, or what do you remember about her growing up? What kind of figure was she in your life?
Right. So I would say my mother was also coming from a city outside Cairo, and she came to Cairo to work, and then she got married and she had me and my brothers. Because I was the only daughter, she was always feeling like she's protecting me in her way and in her point of view. I do understand this. And when I was younger, I didn't understand this a lot, to be honest. Like, I always was questioning and wondering what's going on. And yeah, I had now like the peace with myself to understand that this is the culture she has, and every single mother in like in Egypt that has to protect their daughters and their family in their way. So like performing FGM was done, and was suggestion from my mother to the family, and then I had the procedure. But I mean, yeah, that's the only issue with me and my mother, like having the misunderstanding between each other. From her way, she's protecting me, but in my way, it harmed me a lot, and it was kind of disabling me from feeling I'm a normal person and I'm a normal girl. But yeah, other than this, I was the only daughter. I was happy. My father also, he supported me a lot when I was like younger. He introduced me like reading. I love reading a lot, and I always appreciate my father's introducing me like magazines and books for children. And then I came across many things when I grow up, and I changed the type of books I'm reading, and then I had the knowledge about FGM and other things.
Did your mother used to read a lot, or was she not interested in that?
She wasn't interested in reading. That was my father who was always bringing me like books and magazines when I was younger, me and my brothers, to be honest. And yeah, we became more into like reading and discovering the world around us through books.
Did you have a sense at that age when you were little what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Not really, because I wanted to be something like my family would be proud of, like a doctor or an engineer. And actually, I had an engineering degree. When I realized, I grew up, I realized I didn't like engineering, and I didn't like to work as an engineer in Egypt. I decided to work in a third sector or with charities, and it was very challenging in Egypt to work in this sector, as is not supported from the government, or had lack of funding as well, so it's not easy to work. That's why I was seeking like opportunities to travel and work somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, I wanted always to be something that my family would be proud of, like a doctor or an engineer. But I think now what I'm doing would make them also proud of me with the activism and the advocacy work I'm doing.
So your mother was protective towards you, but primarily in this area, you didn't feel that she was overly protective towards you in other areas. Did you have a lot of freedom growing up, or were you made to have a more traditional household where you weren't supposed to be out?
Yeah, I'm coming from, I would say my family was a conservative family, so I didn't have the whole freedom to do whatever I want. And also the society is not also the family, the society I live in, and the neighborhood and the environment of like growing up and living in a Muslim country, and I have to be covered, I have to work, and till certain time I have to be home. So basically I didn't have the freedom to explore myself and do whatever I want. So yeah, that wasn't an easy way to like live in Egypt freely as a free person want to discover the world.
And you say you were the only girl in the house, your brother's there, and you didn't know about what was coming for you later on in life. You didn't know this plan that your mother had for you or anything like that. When did you realize what was happening? Did she tell you in advance, okay, now you're 9 or you're 10 or you're a certain age, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah, she of course she told me like few days before the procedure, because I've had the procedure within a clinic in Egypt with a doctor. So she said, like, we're going to the doctor and gonna examine you, and we might have to do a small procedure, and this is good for you as when you grow up. Now you're growing up, you're having your period and you're growing up, so you have to go under this procedure. So I didn't really understand like what's going on, but I understood at this point like a small part of my body has to be removed. And well, at the time I didn't had any problem, like, okay, if a small part doesn't harm. But the thing is, when I had the procedure, I bled after 1 week, and no one wanted to save me, because I mean, all doctors, the FGM wasn't allowed at this time. It was, I think, in early 2000 something. I was 9 years old at the time, maybe 1999 or something. But all doctors knew that they shouldn't be doing FGM. So basically, when I bled, the doctors refused to come and save me until finally we find someone to come and stitch me again. So here I realized that something is going wrong, and I need to understand why I'm like about to die if a small part of mine is just being removed. But yeah, at that age, I had no idea what's going on until I grew up and I started to hear from the TV by campaigns from the government to educate people about FGM and this is a harmful practice and people should stop it. Then I started to make an idea of why and what is FGM.
So you must have been terrified. That you're genuinely thinking, "I'm going to die here."
Yeah, actually, I was in a point where I was actually dying, and it was a very like very hard moment for me. But yeah, I think I'm over it now. Like when I remember, I can actually remember what I was wearing in that day because I wear my comfy pajama when I was going to the doctor because the doctor was in the same street I live in. So I actually remember what I was wearing and how the day was going and how the way I was walking home. All these memories is still in my mind. I remember vividly what's going on. But I think I reached a point where I'm fine with it. I'm okay. That's part of my experience.
And the doctors, you said they refused to treat you. Was that because they were worried they were going to get in trouble?
Yes,
Wow. But they did the procedure, but they didn't want to deal with the consequences.
exactly. That yeah, he thought like, okay, it's over and I'm stitched. I would be fine after a few days, but I wasn't, and I bled after a few days. So he refused to come to my house to like restitch me, and then we like my family started to speak to other doctors to come and rescue me actually, and many of them refused to come because they knew well, like why she's bleeding because she had FGM. So no, sorry, we're not coming. That's why it's kind of as well a traumatic event. But yeah, finally, after a few hours, they find someone to accept it and come and restitch me again.
And then presumably you had a period of kind of recovery and
Yeah,
convalescence after that.
yeah,
You saw a few years later, perhaps a campaign on television to persuade people that this was a bad practice. Is that
yeah.
when you realized that your mission was to prevent this happening to other girls, or did that realization come later?
I would say the realization came later after seeing this because when I saw these campaigns, I was like still trying to understand what is this and why it's being practiced. And then when I grew up and I find like people working to prevent this practice, I said I want to be one of them and I want to be supporting and preventing this from happening to other young girls. I didn't really at that time I didn't find how or when I can start because I wanted to focus and finish my education, and then I wanted to find a work after to support me working with this. So yeah, at that time I didn't really realize I would be one of the people who like raising awareness and wanted to stop this practice from happening to younger girls.
And I guess part of the process of stopping it happening is understanding why it happens in the first place. And you said that you think it's some aspect of it, at least, is about controlling women's sexuality. Do you think it's useful for us to think about it broadly in terms of gender politics?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, FGM is one of the patriarchal practices that societies are performing on women to, to control their sexualities and desire and I mean, this is my interpretation because I mean, it's being practiced for other reasons. Like some people say it's a religious reasons, and some say it's just a social norm. But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's just a way to control women's sexualities and desire from thinking having, an intimate relationship before getting married. So basically, the introduction for FGM in the societies like mine is, we protecting you from these kind of relationships until you get married, and you save yourself or your husband, and then you be a good wife, and you be loyal, and in this kind of things. So I actually like refuse, because one of the things I really want to advocate for is like freedom for anyone to explore whatever they want to do. And basically FGM is a way of also other men from the same culture wouldn't really feel, comfortable if you confess that you had FGM when you was like younger. Then yeah, I'm experiencing this in the relationships I'm having, because when somebody like know my story and know what happened to me, I think there is a barrier, like we create barriers between each other. So yeah, I just feel that's very annoying, not only when you are like child and you face the reality that you might die, but also it grows with you up when you want to be a woman and you want to explore yourself, you still find barriers to do what you want to do.
Yeah, and of course it's a sort of it's not something that just affects you prior to marriage. It's something that it's a permanent injury, really. They've medicalized it, but it is an injury, of course. And I think what's puzzles some people is trying to understand how it's a process of the patriarchy, and yet it's something that women are doing to each other. And I think perhaps we need to tease that out a little bit and understand, okay, how does that work? And maybe people's reading of the situation is overly simplistic, but I think we do need to address that question.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's performed by women to women, but also these women grow up in these societies and have been fed all these ideas, and they actually believe it. I'm not like blaming anyone who's performing, because actually I had a conversation with an activist before, and she was doing some interviews with the women who's cutting girls in somewhere in Africa. And one of the ladies who's like her job is to cut the girls. She said, like, if I had opportunity to work any other job, I would do it. She didn't like it and she didn't want to do it, but this is her like family job. She grew up where her mother also was doing FGM to other girls. So basically, I mean, people don't like it, but there's ways that lead you to perform the FGM on other women and younger girls. In a sense, one of the point of views, like, yeah, we're protecting you. Other point of view, this is my job. I want to do it because I wouldn't get money and I would be very poor. And some practice for religious reasons. So basically, yeah, in the society, different opinions, but it leads to the same practice and the same results. And we go to this like dilemma of how we can stop. And this is why advocacy work is very important, and why raising awareness is very important in the societies.
And is it something that women in those countries or in those cultures talk about between each other, or is it something that is avoided?
I would say the younger generations, like my generation and even younger girls, they start to speak and they start to like read, because the internet is now open and available for everyone. I wouldn't say like my aunties and grandmothers generation would really speak about it, and it was not an easy topic to open, like why we would speak about it, because everyone have it anyway. But now like young people are questioning and trying to understand, even if it's performed on them, like how we can stop it in the future. So I would say it's intergenerational dialogue. Also work is being done with many organizations, and started to younger girls are starting to, I would say, educating and raising awareness to older generations, even if they already had the procedure, but they have to know their why it's happening and why we don't like it and why we need to stop it.
And I hope you don't mind me asking, but is it something that you've ever been able to discuss with your mother?
Well, when I was younger, I tried to have a conversation, but we couldn't really like had a good conversation about it because also she had her point of view, like we're trying to protect you, and I didn't know that you would bleed and you might die, and that's true. She never expected and she never knew because it's rarely happening. It happens to other girls, but it's really happening that people might or girls might die after having the procedure. So I mean, in a way, I didn't had this like full conversation yet with her, but maybe in the future I would like to have a proper conversation with her to say, look, like, yeah, I had this and I feel angry, but I made the peace with myself and with yourself as well. Um, and maybe I can share my, my point of view, and she might be agreeing with me. I have no idea, but I didn't have this conversation yet with her.
And do you think that it's changed your relationship with her? This having been her having sort of chosen to do this, or her having enabled this, or allowed this, or being part of it.
Yeah, I would say changed my relationship with like a normal daughter and mother. I wasn't feeling like really, you know, I could trust because I trusted you before, and then I was going to die. But yeah, that was my teenage, I would say, phase, when I wasn't really having a good relationship with my mother. But like when I grew up and I started to read, I made the peace with myself. I still didn't like share this with her. But I would like to. I mean, yeah, it's not her fault, and yeah, she didn't mean to kill me in a way. She wanted to protect me from her perspective. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask? Obviously, we've just talked about some of the physical effects of this and the physical consequences of this. Do you think it's affected you psychologically, having undergone this process?
Y- Yeah, I would say both, like physical and psychological. And the thing was worrying me was more the psychological effects because I wanted to have therapy since I was in Egypt and I couldn't find these kind of services available for survivors. And that was the first thing I've done when I had the opportunity to travel and work abroad. And I was searching for like support services for FGM survivors, and this is how I came to me on Google organizations in the UK, and this is how I knew Forward UK because just wanted support, and then I started to read about the services that they provide for survivors and the therapy they provide and other support services, and these kind of services I didn't have like the privilege, I would say, to have in Egypt. Maybe now they started to have a little bit of these kind of services, but when I was there, it wasn't any. And yeah, I think it's very, very important for women to get over these traumas by having a psychological support.
And that's something that you discovered was in the UK before
Yeah.
you came here.
Yes.
And it was that part of your motivation to come here in the first place.
No, it wasn't actually. I came here for exchange program and volunteering work as well. And I was like, I wanted to know what services they provide here I might be benefited from. And that's also how also after I became an asylum seeker and a refugee, based on these kind of risks I might face like coming back to Egypt. So yeah, I had no idea how I would find any support services and how much I would pay. Maybe I didn't know that also there are like free services for survivors. I just have to teach myself. So that since I came here, I had to speak to my GP, and they have to refer me to other, clinics and stuff like this. So I had no idea and no experience about it before coming here.
When did you realize then that you couldn't go back to Egypt?
I actually realized after I started the therapy here and I felt I might get better, and I want to protect myself from, from other harmful practices like forced marriage, for example, because I was getting older, and at some point I have to be married to someone I might like, I might don't like. And I realized when I'm feeling here better, and I'm sure 100% I wouldn't get these support services when I go back to my country. So in this point, I felt I need to put myself first. I need to improve my mental health, as I was not feeling very good. I was feeling I'm not going anywhere with having depression, with having struggles, having normal relationship with someone else, until I actually work on myself. And I couldn't do that by myself. I need to be supported by professionals, I would say.
Do you feel that you've completed your therapeutic journey? Do you feel that you've arrived at yourself, as it were?
For the point about FGM, I would say yes. I mean, I arrived to a point where I accept my body and I understand my body more. I understand that I can have a normal relationship with a freedom of, of exploring myself and exploring relationships, and speaking to people, and having the freedom of expression, go online like this podcast and speak about myself. These kind of things that made me feel comfortable and, and happy with what the whole experience I had. I would say I wouldn't be myself today if I wouldn't pass through all these things.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. And your journey to the UK wasn't a straightforward one. Achieving your papers here and getting your status here wasn't a straightforward one. Can you tell us a little bit about the problems that you had with the Home Office and with your immigration journey?
Sure. I actually, when I tried to seek asylum here to protect myself, and I had no idea where I would go and how I would go, how long the process would be, about the legal support as well. I had no idea about it. And when I did my research and I tried to find how I would seek asylum in the UK, actually, I also had nowhere to go. So when I went to the Home Office, I applied for the asylum application, and then I've been put in accommodation with also other people, and then moving from a place to another every few weeks. It was also during COVID. It was very challenging, and I had to find my own, legal support. I had to research. I had to, write my statement. I had to go through all the anxiety and the worry I can. I mean, I had to, because I wanted to have a safe life and a good life after. So I have to go through all these things. And it wasn't really straightforward, because I didn't feel very supported, and I have to seek support from many organizations, which is good that they exist, but not easy I mean, for me, I was fine with Google search and trying to find what I really want. But for other asylum seekers and people coming and facing horrific ways to come to this country, and then they had the opportunity to be educated in their countries, and they're struggling to even use the cards to go to the bus station or buy a ticket to go somewhere or buy grocery shopping. I was really feeling, feeling disturbed by how these people are just left like this and not supported, and have to wait months and years for their papers. So I was worried about mine as well. When I would get it, because COVID stopped everything. I was lucky, to be honest. I got my documents in after a few months of applying for asylum, and I got my refugee status to stay in this country. But I still think about other people was living in the same house with me. They didn't get their documents, and they go through many, difficult experiences to be able to secure just a simple life, have the right to work here, and grow up their babies, and just live a peaceful life away from what they face in their home countries. So these things still disturbs me, to be honest. And this one of the reasons why I also do work with refugees, and I want to support more asylum seekers and refugees as well.
And during this process, when you were being shuffled around from one place to another, you weren't allowed to work then?
Of course, no.
And you feel that you should have, if you'd have been allowed to work, you could have looked after yourself better than the Home Office was looking after you?
I actually, I would say yes, because I wanted in this time when all the asylum seekers living on £5 per day, and they have to live on this money, buy your essentials and stuff. I couldn't, and I wish if I was able to work, I would buy whatever I want. I would pay tax for the country. I would contributing more with society. I would be socially included, and I would feel a sense of home. But when you have no rights to do anything, and you have to just stay waiting your status, or you would be worried what if they rejected me and they have to deport me back to where I come from. So this anxiety and mental stress you have to live with until you find your peace is really is very hard, and can disturb anybody, like having uncertainty of what's going on and having no place to call home. Even the house and the accommodation you live in, they can move you from somewhere to another, like in few weeks, and so you don't have really the feeling of this is my room, I can live here. You always wake up in the morning, check the letterbox and see like, well, what I can expect today. Is it an interview, or are they moving me somewhere? You're always thinking.
And this is quite typical for you, isn't it? Having been through something, you then want to campaign on that issue and do something positive about it, which is fantastic, because this has led to, it's a fantastic impulse. This has led to all of the campaigning work you're doing at the moment. Should we talk a little bit about that? I know you firstly through your work with Forward UK. Perhaps you can tell our listeners about what Forward UK do and how your involvement with them looks like.
Of course. So Forward UK is an organization. They do work with supporting minorities in the UK, especially women who are facing violence. And they're doing work more than 20 years ago. And they were the first organization come to me when I was searching for support for FGM survivors. They do a lot of work about FGM and harmful practices in the UK and in Africa as well. So basically, I sought like help from them to support me with therapy, and then I became actually part of the team, because they were looking for young women to do a social action projects at the time when it was 2019. And I applied because I felt like I qualify. I'm a survivor. I'm from Africa. I live in the UK. I can apply and try to get the training how to advocate for women's rights and how to advocate for my rights. And this training was actually, I would say, the starting point where I wanted to, okay, I'm fine. I got the training. I want to do something in the society. And yeah, that's why I started become one of the team, and now I'm a member of YWAC, which is Young Women Advisory Council. Also, they still do a project with young people who want to fight harmful practices and do advocacy work.
And you also have been, I know you've been involved with the Salima initiative.
Yes, Salima initiative was an initiative by the African Union, and they do work with also young people to raise awareness about FGM in a way, in a level where where you can work with advocacy work. You can work with policy makers and people who are making decisions. So I was selected to be the diaspora ambassador, as I live in the UK and I'm from Africa as well. So I was doing work with them for a few years, and then I'm more focused now to work, I would say, nationally, because I live here. I want to do more work. I wish I can work in Africa and of course my home country to prevent these practices, but also a lot of migrants and refugees and women living here also affected by FGM. So I felt like I want to get the national experience as well and focus more, as I do also my master's degree in London Metropolitan University, and I'm studying women and child abuse masters, and my dissertation also is about FGM. So yeah, that's it.
So you're doing a master's degree now in this subject, and where are you studying that?
I'm studying in London Metropolitan University, so it's North London. And luckily, I was applying for actually many master degrees as I wanted to study social sciences. But because I'm coming from a science background and mechanical engineering background, I was also facing a challenge to continue studying what I want to study and what I want to work in the future. But I had the opportunity to do the masters now with London Met University, and hopefully graduating soon. Wish me luck.
So, well, all the best of luck with your studies, of course. And it's so vitally important for the campaigns that you've been involved with to have somebody who's a person who's an activist, who's a campaigner, who has lived experience of the issue that they're campaigning against. But you've said in the past that it can derail your activism when the people that you're communicating with about this issue can tell you that they feel sorry for you or that they pity you. Can you tell me a little bit what was in your mind when you said that statement?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I had the opportunity to express myself and share my experience, which is I'm proud of, and always trying to share my experience to raise awareness about people like me and women like me. But sometimes I get like the responses from people like we feel very sorry for you, and like this is not helpful actually. Like, yeah, I can understand you feel sorry and you don't like this, and you feel like if I was better when I was a child and didn't have this practice, but also I wanted you to contribute with my story and my experience in a different way, like supporting the work I'm doing or trying to be more involved. But feeling just sorry, it's I to be honest, I get offended. Like sometimes I don't want to, you feel sorry about me. There's also other people facing many horrible things in the world. And if I would just feel sorry, I wouldn't be very helpful to other people. So yeah, I just need to be proactive and do something really for these kind of issues that you feel sorry for.
Absolutely. And so what is it then that we want from people? We want them to feel angry about this practice, and we want them to feel that it should stop, or how do we want people to respond, and also how do we stop this?
Yeah, I mean, how we do stop this by talking about this, by sharing and raising awareness about this. And when someone like hears for the first time about FGM or kind of different harmful practice happening to women, and you feel angry, you can feel sorry, you can have any type of feeling, but also you can contribute to this. You can support, maybe if you don't want to be really involved, you can support organizations working, try to find an organization in your like community or your country. You can donate, you can volunteer, you can attend events and understand more and support women. In a way, you can do some really tangible work, tangible thing, tangible action to prevent this practice. Also, in another level, if you really want to do something, you can work with policymakers, you can advocate as well, you can be an advocate. You don't have to be a survivor to prevent a harmful practice, but also you can always talk about it. You can make noise so people can know that there is an issue and we need to stop.
And if somebody goes to see a doctor, or if they go to the Home Office to claim asylum or something like that, if you're working with somebody who's from one of these countries where it's this prevalent, they should be asking them if they've been affected by it. You know, they should be, rather than just sort of ignoring it or breezing past it or being conscious of it, they have to factor it in, don't they?
I agree with you. Actually, you reminded me of the situation where I was literally applying for my asylum application, and I was sitting with an officer and I was explaining I'm a survivor of FGM. And the officer asked me, "What is FGM?" And literally, it was a poster behind him speaking about FGM, and he asked me, "What is FGM?" So I felt like, okay, I think we need training for people working with survivors and asylum seekers to raise more awareness about the issues you might be hearing when people seeking asylum.
Wow. He wasn't just asking you that to test you, so he just genuinely didn't know.
No, he didn't know, and the translator was explaining what's this procedure.
And this is the person, your life is in their hands. They've got to make a decision on whether you're in danger or whether this is a real, and they don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was the initial interview. I would say wasn't the big one in the end. So yeah, that was the filling the application and asking me questions like, why are you seeking asylum? And when you mentioned, like I mentioned, I am a survivor of FGM, and just genuinely asking like, what is FGM? When yeah, and the translator interrupted us and explaining the practice.
And even a massive poster behind.
Yes.
Brilliant, and they still didn't even know. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we know that there is a lack of decision makers in the Home Office. We know that this is one of the reasons why claims are taking so long to be decided. But we also have plenty of evidence like this of the appalling quality of information that they have access to, and a total lack of curiosity on their behalf about what's actually happening in the countries where people are coming from, and why they would be making these claims. Basma, what would you say to a survivor to encourage them to speak out and encourage them to speak up and get involved in something like this?
I would say survivors can support themselves and others in a way. I mean, it's not speaking up and sharing the experience publicly is not for everyone, and I do respect all the experiences and all the circumstances that women might face after speaking up and sharing their experiences. But they also, like, the ways the survivor can support each other is by making we have like kind of like sisterhood. We support each other, we can speak to each other, we can meet, and we can share what we feel, even if our experiences are different. We all had the same procedure, right? And actually this is one of the this is the topic about my dissertation. I wanted to document women's experiences who had undergone FGM, and just wanted to listen to people coming from different culture having the same procedure. So in a sense, like, I wanted to document and dignify the stories and experiences of survivor, and trying to support them speaking out and sharing what they have been through and what they are feeling at the moment, and what the needs they need to have in order to overcome the trauma and live a normal life like any other woman.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And hopefully, if anybody's listening to this that wants to know more, they can get in contact with Forge UK, or they can contact Refugee Radio. We can put them in touch with you guys there. Basma, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us today, and for being a guest on this program and helping me to let people know about this issue, and for having the courage to share your personal experience.
Thanks, Stephen, so much. And I really like your project, and I'm looking forward to listen to more refugee stories, because as you said in the beginning, we are the expertise, and we are the ones that we can speak about ourselves and share our experiences and how diverse we are. And I mean, keep the great work, and thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you. You've been fantastic. Basma, thanks again for being a participant today on Refugee Radio.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.